today. We do have a quorum today. We got a few legacy bills up today. First up, we are going to have Senator Pappas with Senate File 1809, and they're ready to testify. So just go ahead when you're ready, Senator Pappas. I will get my words right. I think I just need a drink of water.
Well, I keep coughing, so I don't blame you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members. Today, it's my pleasure to present Senate File 1809, a bill that would provide legacy funding for the Minnesota Children's Museum. Thank you also to my co-authors, including committee members Senator Herr and Senator Kunish. The bill would provide an annual $650,000 from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund to the Minnesota Children's Museum to continue the important work they do in serving Minnesota children. The funding will support the development of new hands-on exhibits for children to learn through play. It also supports the museum's family nights, free after-hour events for partner organizations serving families in need and underrepresented families. These funds have allowed the museum to host 11 family nights, which has served more than 3,400 kids and adults. The Minnesota Children's Museum is both a beloved part of my downtown district, and it's also truly a statewide asset. They welcome more than 400,000 people per year from every county in Minnesota. The bill is important to me and to all of us because its focus is on our future, our children. The Minnesota Children's Museum uses foundational education and science principles to build exhibits that bring children of all backgrounds together to build community through play. Inspiring collaboration and shared experiences cultivate strong Minnesota communities. With me today is Diane Kreisen, who is the president of the Minnesota Children's Museum. She'll share, we have a slideshow, and she'll share a little bit more about their approach and their success.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Ms. Kreisen, please just state your name for the record and go ahead and get started.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators. I'm Diane Kreisen, president of Minnesota Children's Museum. Appreciate your time here today to hear about our request. And so I wanted to first start with just an overview of how we have used the last appropriation to then set up as we look forward to the next 2 years. So in general, there are 2 areas that we have been investing in, creating new hands-on playful learning experiences, and as well as expanding outreach to extend beyond our walls with it. And overall, these hands-on playful learning experience are based on the science of how kids learn by exploring their world. And we just have a graphic up there that just shows kind of the different skills that we're focused on as kids play and learn, you know, building their confidence, growing their communication skills, practicing critical thinking, creative thinking, et cetera. So at Minnesota Children's Museum, we talk about 4 community impact goals that we're focused on as we work on these projects. First of all, it's obviously what I was just talking about, that children develop lifelong skills through the hands-on learning. We also think intentionally about the parents and other caregivers that come with those children, because we want them to understand how powerful playful learning is for children, so that they can extend that learning beyond the museum and really create kind of that freedom and time to play beyond a visit to the museum. We focus very much on creating equitable opportunities for play, making sure that a family's ability to pay the admission is not a barrier to be able to access those programs, and that also goes into the community engagement work that I'll talk about families and making sure that they have access to the museum. And lastly, you know, when they're in the space, as Senator Pappas was talking about, it's a very joyful experience, and we want kind of all families in our community to really be able to experience belonging and joy as they're in our space. So as Senator Pappas said, we do have statewide reach, more than 400,000 visitors, and I also just wanted to highlight that 1 in 4 of those visitors enter through a reduced price program or free program in some cases for income qualified families. So getting into the last 2 years, I wanted to highlight some of the projects that we have done. This past summer, Monsters took over the Children's Museum while they were on their summer vacation as well. And monsters were not only delightful, which they were, but it was also really an age-appropriate way to work with kids, for children to explore their feelings, to tackle challenges, and to build their confidence. We also created a new vet clinic in our pretend play gallery. As children pretend, they try on and practice those adult roles. They also practice a lot of vocabulary development and a lot of pre-literacy skill development when they're in pretend play. We used one of our spaces, and thanks to legacy funding, and created a new vet clinic. And in that space, that's where children were really able to practice taking care of someone else. There was a check-in for the vet clinic, taking the temperature, the x-rays. There was also a pet grooming station, intake, form, so you can really practice some writing skills and really kind of think about what your pet, your stuffed animal pet you could select, what that pet needed and how you were going to care for it. We are underway and will open by the summertime an area in our pretend play gallery. We have a fire truck that is quite popular with kids. It is a deconstructed fire truck that has, real steering wheel and real buttons to press with noises and lights and the real seats that the firefighters get to sit in. But one thing that there were other areas around that we just wanted to activate more with this theme around elevating firefighters as one of our community helpers. And so our team took a visit to the Firefighter Training Center in St. Paul, and they were really inspired by all the work that firefighters do to get ready to provide that safety for our community. And in particular, they have something called a confidence course. And so we are going to replicate that confidence course. So for firefighters, they put on their 50 pounds of gear. Our kids, the gear will weigh a little bit less. And they navigate through, tunnels with, 2x4s and different angles, and just practicing how to move their body through that. And so we are going to add that into that space, as well as some other programming around that to really highlight how hard firefighters work to build up their confidence, to do the work that they have to do, but probably also some things around fire safety and some other education with that would complement it. And another project that was made possible in the last 2 years is we reimagined our makerspace in our studio, that we redesigned the space. And what it's done is it's not only improved our ability to facilitate programs in there, but it's increased our visitor capacity as well. And so we are seeing more visitors stay for longer periods of time working on the creations and the different experiences that we provide there. And then on the community engagement side, Senator Pappas had talked about that already, about the family night events that we've been doing there. And overall, we were able to launch those events. We work with Head Start programs and other community serving organizations. And we have had 11 programs to date with the 3,500 children served so far just in that particular. These are after hours exclusive events for those families. And then we have 6 more coming up here in the spring and early summer. So looking ahead to this year's request, we are requesting $650,000. Our current appropriation is $500,000, so that is an increased request from that. We want to continue to create more hands-on learning experiences, as well as further deepen community engagement. So with that, again, the experiences that the museum creates are all based on the science of how open-ended, self-directed learning experiences give kids the space, freedom to explore their interests, solve problems, and build life skills. And so with that funding, we'd be able to add new exhibits, and we're particularly focused on STEM learning experiences, as well as some social emotional development, as kids are still kind of recovering from the isolation of the pandemic as we continue to see that. We also want to have new activities that really focus on fostering creativity and imagination in our studio space, but as well as in some other flexible spaces that we have to provide a variety of activities in that area. area. And then just really beefing up our facilitated programs so that we can really guide play that's happening and kind of help to scaffold that learning that's happening at the museum. And lastly, in deepening the community engagement, we would really wish to go further in increasing outreach to engage more families whose children have fewer learning enrichment opportunities. Through that, to continue to host those family nights with an extended group of organizations, so continuing to support the Head Start programs, but also expanding that list of community organizations. And then expanding our efforts to really help parents and caregivers, support playful learning and healthy child development. So we're just so very grateful for the prior appropriations that have had a real impact on like I say, 400,000 children, over the course of the legacy history, millions and millions of children sort of impacted and their families impacted by that. And we're really very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify on the bill? Seeing none, member questions. Does anybody have a question for Senator Pappas or our testifier? That's really easy. Senator Pappas, closing comments.
No, no, just thank you so much for your consideration, and I'm happy to be here again.
All right.
Thanks.
With that, Senate File 1809 will be laid over for possible inclusion. And next up, we have Senator Oumou Verbeten, but I don't see her here. Or is she? Oh, there she is. Welcome. So next up, we have Senate File 975, Senator Oumou Verbeten. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am happy to present Senate File 975. This bill is for Art from the Inside, and they give incarcerated artists a visual voice through engaging, community-centered exhibitions of their art. Their work really empowers incarcerated artists, promotes personal transformation and healing, and I will say when I met Antonio Espinosa, the co-founder of Art from the Inside a few years ago, he was able to share his really powerful story with me. I'll try to give you a brief amount because I know you want to testify as well, but Antonio served as a correctional officer in Stillwater for nearly 20 years. And he started Art from the Inside to foster transformation and healing and forgiveness after his friend and fellow correctional officer, Joseph Gom, was killed by an inmate. And really everything changed after that. This was a way to bring the community together, to rebuild and to heal. And now Art from the Inside is working in several correctional facilities. They do amazing work. I've seen it firsthand in those facilities, and have also spoken with, currently and formerly incarcerated folks who participated in the programs and been to the exhibitions that they have outside. It's really great because they give folks an opportunity to sell their art and to provide for themselves and their families. So I look forward to hearing directly from Antonio and our other testifier just about the impact of their work, and then answering any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, Senator Oumou Verbeten. I have Luke Scott up first, but if you would like Mr. Espinoza to testify first, that's just fine. Which either one of you wants to go first, just state your name for the record and go ahead and get started.
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Antonio Espinoza. Thank you, Sir Chair, for allowing me to be here today to speak to this committee. My name is Antonio Espinoza, and I'm a founder and CEO of Art from the Inside. I'm also a retired correctional officer. I mean, the senator really said a lot of the stuff I was going to say today. So, so anyway, I'm a retired correctional officer from Stillwater Prison, and I've served for 20 years as a correctional officer. I came before you today to speak to you in reference to Senate File 975, appropriations outlined in the bill, which will provide critical funding to continue our transformative work in Minnesota's correctional facilities in our communities. First, I would like to thank the Minnesota Legislature for the one-time funding we received in 2023 for supportive arts programming in the DOC. The appropriations received helped us to facilitate 2 cohorts at Faribault and Shakopee facilities with art and wellness classes. I've provided information for you all to read and learn more about our program. For years, I've served as a correctional officer, witnessing firsthand impact of incarcerated individuals, their families, and in our communities. I saw how art has the power to reach those who felt forgotten, giving them a voice, a purpose, and always find healing. My correctional officer, Joseph Gum, was killed in the line of duty in 2018 by the hands of an incarcerated person at our facility. That experience led me to create Art from the Inside, an organization that provides incarcerated individuals with opportunities for creative expression using visual art as a tool for rehabilitation, personal growth, and transformation. Through our program, we have seen individuals develop skills that prepare them for life beyond bars, and critical thinking, emotional expression, and community connections. We have family reconnected through art, and communities engaged in conversations that shift the perspective on social justice, rehabilitation, and second chances. This funding will allow us to expand our reach, provide more incarcerated individuals and returning citizens with opportunities for healing and reintegration through the power of the arts. It will also foster a safer environment inside the correctional facilities by reducing tension and promoting constructive self-expression. I urge you to support this investment in rehabilitation, public safety, and community healing. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll take questions after the next testifier. Are you Mr. Scott?
Yes, sir.
All right, just state your name for the record and go ahead.
My name is Luke Scott, and my greetings to all the honorable senators here. I was incarcerated for 12 years from 2010 to 2022, and previously I had overdosed 11 times. I was a violent person. I was a profane and disrespectful person. I didn't want to make the 12 years I spent incarcerated for nothing, so I used my time wisely to study self-improvement, art, world religions, a lot of different things, and tried to use that to benefit not only myself, but I also taught other inmates while I was in there and helped them to be able to draw portraits of their families and improve relations with them. It also gave us something to focus on that was constructive. A lot of people come out actually worse criminals than when they went in due to the abundance of bad association that they're surrounded with. So to have something constructive to do with our time was very beneficial. It really helped me and improved relationships with my family, and even the different correction officers were very interested in the pieces that we were creating and everything like that. I was introduced to Antonio, it'll be 3 years ago in June, and it was shortly after my release, and he invited me to be part of Art from the Inside. So I've continued to display art in the galleries, create art, build new good relationships in the community network. Now I also have my own health and wellness business. I volunteer in the ministry work, teaching the Bible 50 hours a month, and that includes every Friday night we go into a treatment center in Maplewood and do a Bible study with other people who are in recovery there. So yeah, thank you guys. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify for or against the bill? Seeing none, are there member questions? Senator Herr.
Mr. Chair, I just have a comment. I really thank Mr. Espinoza for his passion and humility and coming out with a creative idea. Because when your coworker are killed by someone incarcerated, sometimes it's very painful. But you turn pain to something brightful and blooming. And so I want to commend you. I crossed paths with Mr. Espinoza a number of times, and one time in particular was when he asked the Asian inmate what do they want to do on Asian Day, and they said, let's celebrate Hmong New Year. So that's why they invited me there to the Stillwater
2019.
to speak about Hmong New Year. So I know that the inmate, Mr. Espinoza, had the respect of the inmate, and now he's retired. He's still engaged and work with them, but I'm sure many of them miss his time there dearly. So just want to make a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hur. Any other questions? I'll have just a couple. Mr. Espinoza, I'm just curious, how many facilities are you currently in? And it sounds like you'd said you'd like to get to other facilities. How many do you think this would help you get to if you're able to be included in the omnibus bill?
I'm currently in 2 facilities, but our next cohort is going to be 3. So it'll be Stillwater, Shakopee, and Faribault, which I'm working with right now.
Perfect. That's great to hear. And I heard you talk about giving people a sense of purpose, and I appreciate that. I think that's a really good thing. I was trying to look through the packet, and I didn't see it. I got to assume when you give people a sense of purpose, it helps them when they do get out. Do you have any data that talks about how this may have lowered some recidivism rates? I got to assume there's some positive benefits even for people once they've exited the prison system. And thank you, Mr. Scott, for your testimony today. Obviously, he's one of those positive examples, but I got to assume there's others, and I'm just curious if you could speak to that also.
Well, when it comes down to recidivism, I don't have that data in front of me to give you that. I could tell you what I've done within the last 7 years of my work with what I'm doing. Within the people that I've been working with, inside and out, well, let's say the people who are out, one of my guys went back into the prison system. Everyone else has been thriving, doing well. They have been motivated with the program that I'm created. Family members are ecstatic with what we're doing. Community members are really happy that we are doing something like this to help folks to understand who they are as human beings and how we as community can accept people who have been incarcerated back into our society. If we don't do that, we're not doing the right thing for the people who are coming out of the prison system. And we need to show mercy to people who have been in that situation. And so, that's what I keep doing. And when I get more information and more stats about that, I'll be happy to share that with you.
Thank you, Mr. Espinoza. That's very helpful, and I think you probably do have some good results, and I believe that to be the case. But I'd be curious in the future. I know you've been here before, and I know you'll probably be back, and certainly happy to support you. I think you guys are doing some good work. With that, not seeing any other questions from. Oh, there is one more question, Senator Kunesh, and then we'll go to Senator Oumou Verbeten for closing statements. Go ahead.
Thank you for bringing this forward, Senator Oumou Verbeten, and thank you for the work that you're doing for the people of our community and the greater community. I'm wondering if there is any similar program or if you are working in partnership, collaborating with anybody at the women's prison in Shakopee, and if this is something that you would be looking to extend to those women that are released from that prison and reentering our society, our community, recognizing that some of the things that the artistic expression is really relevant to women in so many different ways. I'm just wondering if you've ever considered something like that.
Mr. Espinoza?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I'm currently working in Shakopee.
Nice.
We actually had an exhibit that we invited senators to come down to see speak to the to the artists and to see the work that they do. They gave us testimony about how the art and wellness classes has provided them a lot of serene time and a collaboration among themselves. Those individuals in Shakopee have created their own. After we finished with their 12 weeks program, they created their own program, and they do their own healing circles, and they connect with themselves and do art and have others who are not part of the program to be a part of their program. So I think it was beneficial for this art program to be in that space, to give them energy to think about doing it for themselves.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Senator Kunesh,
Thank
anything
you.
else?
Nope,
All
thank
right,
you.
Final comments.
Thank you, Senator Eichhorn. I really appreciate the question, too, around recidivism. I know one of my focuses has been, as we're looking at things like earned release coming in DOC facilities, that requirement to have participation in programming is important, and we want to support programs like this that really are supporting people to re-enter into society. I would also encourage folks to see this for yourself. I've been to Art from the Inside programming at Shakopee and Faribault. It's great to speak to folks who are a part of that. There was a recent exhibit that I sent over to senators at the Attorney General's office. There's the Shifting Perspectives exhibit. Is that still ongoing?
Yes.
We'll get those details to the committee, but it's great to just see it in real time. And then lastly, would say, I think the asset here is that Antonio Espinosa brings his experience as a correctional officer and actually being in the facilities, knowing how to work with and support incarcerated folks and really lead them down a good path. So this is a great program. I hope you'll find support for this in the legacy bill this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, Senate File 975 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Next up, we have Senate File 1965, Senator Pah. Welcome, Senator Pah. I do see there is an amendment in the packet. Is that an author's amendment, and would you like to offer that right away?
Thank you, Chair Eichhorn. Yes, I would.
All right. Senator Lang offers the A1 amendment. Would you like to speak to the amendment, Senator Pah?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. So the amendment just makes a correction in the bill from the Commissioner of Administration to the Board of Directors of the Minnesota Humanities Center.
Okay. Any questions on the amendment? Senator Wiesenberg?
Thank you, Chair. 1 second, I just want to read it. I don't know that this isn't about the bill. I'm just wondering, so the Commissioner of Administration is normally the person who would then give the money to the Board of Directors, so we're just giving it to them, so there's not that going from the Commissioner of Administration to the Board of Directors. I guess my question is just to make sure the money's going to where it needs to be going, and I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, to follow the money, right? So does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, Senator Wiesenberg, I think you're correct, and I think this language typically lines up with what we see in these bills for it to go to the Commissioner of Administration. We can defer to council just to make sure. Mr. Stanley, are you able to let us know if that's standard? To me, that seems like standard language, but just want to make sure we get it in order before we adopt that and get to the underlying bill.
Mr. Chair, members, last time this appropriation was included in a bill, it went through the Humanities Center, and this amendment would make the bill consistent with that approach taken last time.
Good. Okay. Not seeing any other questions. All those in favor of the A1 amendment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the motion does prevail. We are on to Senate File 1965 as amended. Senator Pah.
Thank you, Chair Eichhorn, and thank you, Chair Herr, and members of the committee for allowing me to present SF 1965. I also want to thank Chair Herr and Senator Kunish for co-authoring this bill with me. Thank you for your support. This bill proposes competitive grants to develop high-quality and academic, cultural, ethnic studies materials for communities that do not have adequate cultural and ethnic studies materials or who are underrepresented in those materials, including but not limited to our Hmong, Korean, Somali, Oromo cultures, and other cultures without a formal writing system that are largely oral-based. These resources will provide all learners from K-12 to college students and professionals with access to more inclusive and accurate education. For too long, many communities have been invisible in our education system, their histories and identities largely absent from curricula. We live in a state that prides itself on diversity, yet we continue to fall short in providing educational materials that reflect the full spectrum of cultures, histories, and lived experiences that shape our collective identity. When students see themselves reflected in what they learn, they become more engaged, more confident, and more likely to succeed. It tells them you belong, your history is important, and that you matter. When students learn about other cultures and histories of their peers, they grow into more informed, empathetic, and culturally competent citizens and professionals. So this grant ensures that grant recipients do work with our schools, colleges, and professionals to create engaging, high-quality learning materials and tools that enrich education. Chair, I do have two testifiers here with me today. I have Commissioner Kevin Lindsay and Ms. Biveng Moa.
Thank you. I have Mr. Lindsay on the list first, but if you would like your other testifier to go first, that's just fine for both of you. Just state your name for the record once you get started, and either one, go ahead and get started.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Senate Committee. I'm here to testify as a lead Hmong language educator at the University of Minnesota. I am the director in the program for 1 year shy of 20 years in the Asian Middle Eastern Studies Department, where I've seen the impact of what happens to people when they lose proficiency or lose the language completely. Yet imagine having next to nothing in curriculum materials, and yet it is too vital and important to not keep moving on. In the nation, we probably have less than 3 textbooks, of which 1 is used amongst the schools here in Minnesota. While heritage and indigenous language proficiency does not dictate success, it has a high lifelong impact on the ability to empathize, understand, critically analyze, and think creatively on all aspects of life, career, and building meaningful global relationships beyond one's own limited foundations. And these are the very treasured values of all American citizens that we hope our children become as they grow into our future generations and leaders while we become future ancestors. It is also very likely one of the main reasons why educators across the board has required second language acquisition many years ago in the U.S. as we work to build better connections and relationships amongst ourselves, our neighboring countries, and beyond, becoming a global leader in all aspects of thought process, communication skills, successful negotiations. And one can only do such things if one is fully confident in one's own identity. Thus, the loss of language strips away at the key values of one's heritage, history, indigeneity, and future. And I can speak on these points all I want or quote data all day long, but the best value and proof in how heritage and indigenous language acquisition and proficiency creates the best versions of leaders and critical thinkers is in this very room in Senator Pa and Senator Fong, Senator Herr, and beyond these walls, and every single elected official that's Hmong across the nation. If I'm not mistaken, every single elected official and every single one that has run a campaign, whether they were elected or not, have been fully proficient in their native language of Hmong. But they are a rare breed these days, and they will continue to be if we don't support education materials. I urge the committee to see the values in supporting funding to continue this work, for we are at a critical crossroad with Hmong language as we speak. Our elders are leaving us in record numbers, and our indigenous language, which was once very important to American allies as we lived in the jungles of Laos, is disappearing before our very eyes. In fact, even incarcerated folks have reached out to me asking and requesting for language materials to learn their own language so that they may become better citizens and connect with their community and their families. So thank you very much for giving me time today. As a consensus across the board on educators, we agree that written materials is a need in order to keep the language living, and these should be academic research materials that needs funding to enrich our future leaders. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. And I don't know if you stated your name for the record before you started, so if you could do that so your name's on the record, then we'll go to Mr. Lindsay.
Yes, my name is B. Vang Mua.
Thank you. Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Again, my name is Kevin Lindsay. It's Lindsey. I serve as the CEO of the Minnesota Humanities Center. As been eloquently stated by the two prior testifiers, the importance of cultural and language preservation is critical and key. The Minnesota Humanities Center over the last 4 years has been in partnership with the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council, with the Dakota and Ojibwe language preservation, and many of the things which were just said by the two testifiers I could attest to within that space with the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council. I won't belabor the point because I think it has already been made about the impact and the importance, but I do want to raise one issue with the committee this afternoon, and that is the demand for this type of materials within schools. So if we were to look at the initial data coming in from individuals who signed up to participate on an informational session to gain more information, we nearly had 90 organizations, not 90 people, but 90 different organizations request information from us about preparing and submitting a grant application. That suggests to us, when we take a look at our historical data concerning grant applications within other grant lines, that we're likely to see somewhere between 30 and 45 applications filed. The grant application pool for this grant line, it's not limited as it relates to the amount that can be requested by an organization, and we've had some organizations already identify that they might request the entirety of the amount that we have within this. Conservatively, we estimate that we'll probably have somewhere between the request of 100 to 125 on average of the 30 to 45 applications that are filed. So again, conservatively, we think the demand will be at least 3 million, but it could be far more in excess of that. So appreciate this committee hearing testimony when we gave an overview as relates to grant applications, and I would say this is very similar to what we testified earlier, and that there is great demand for this type of programming, these type of grants, and again, similarly to the other ones, it's going to be a mass multiple of anywhere between 5 and say 10 of what the dollars that we have to give out. We thank you for allowing us to be in participation with school districts and with communities and doing this first grant line, and we look forward to supporting the senator if this body decides to renew this legislation and provide additional grant line funding for the next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Just real quick, I see, and this might be for the senator as well, I see you guys have a blank appropriation for both years. It looks like you received $500,000 in the past. Is there a specific ask? I see you might have as much as $3 million in requests. I know we might not have that. Is there? Can we drill down a little more on what you're hoping for, what you think those blank appropriations should be, just for reference? Either one's fine. Either one of you.
Thank you, Chair Icorn, and I'll let Commissioner Lindsay also speak to it, but I want to just say we left it blank because we're really looking to you and Senator and Chair Her for your input and in what you think that can be done in this budget. And so, but we know that the demand is very high, but we also know that our funds are very limited.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're going to be dealing with some challenges this year as well, because I think there's going to be a little shift that we saw in the budget forecast that came out where there's going to have to be a transfer from legacy to the general fund because there were some mistakes over a few years. So we're definitely going to be challenged in that area. But if you wanted to speak to that too, Mr. Lindsay, as far as the amount, I think that would be helpful for the committee.
So, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I will echo the gracious senator's comments that this really is a decision that's best laid for the respective committee. But I will say again, There is great demand for this type of programming. And if Minnesota is to continue what it has always done, and that is outperform from a GDP standpoint in comparison to other states, it's a highly educated workforce. And to this extent of these new learners that are coming in, it's important that we meet them where they are and we continue to develop a highly skilled workforce. So I appreciate the support and working within this area.
All right, questions from members? Senator Herr?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make a comment that, and I'm not much a scholar. I know that director and scholar can say this better than I do, but it's good to have material for children that written by the community for the community than having someone else writing about their community and then being taught to their community in a certain way. So, you know, I'm sure Senator Pye and I and a cultural diaspora and oral base face this all the time, where we research back to our history, but it's written by everyone else but our own culture. And, you know, so just want to make that comment there. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments from members? Seeing none, Senator Pye, final comments.
Thank you, Chair Icorn. I want to just say thank you to Chair Herr for leading this work last year. And it was very impactful. I've heard from the community how great this work, these grants are needed. And I want to thank both of our testifiers and thank you, all the committee members, and hoping that I can get support from you to get this passed. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Senate File 1965 will be laid over for possible inclusion.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to have Senate File 1869, Senator Housley. Welcome, Senator Housley. And I only have one testifier on the list as well, Mr. Miller. So are you Mr. Miller? What's your name, sir?
Mark Finneman.
Mark Finneman. All right, looks like is your presentation ready to go? All right, with that, Senator Housley, to your bill.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am here, I can see, good, it is up there. I am here with my friends from Forest Lake asking for, and I want to thank you first for hearing this bill and for everything that you've done in the past for Forest Lake and veterans, because it really, really means a lot to our community and those across the state. And this is a huge project in Forest Lake. We are asking for $275,000 for a grant to the Forest Lake Veterans Memorial to construct a memorial down in Lakeside Park. And with that, I'm just going to toss it to the two experts. First, we have, and don't play that yet, I will toss it over to Mr. Ron Miller.
Mr. Miller, go ahead, just state your name for the record.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Ron Miller, Forest Lake, Minnesota. And we thank you for being here and listening for this request and for the support that you've given us in the past also. It's a good support for our veterans. So our City of Forest Lake Area Veterans Memorial Committee is a community group which organized in 2008. I was one of the two people that are still around in the group. I'm the chairman. Our goal was and is to honor U.S. veterans, either living or deceased, with a memorial site in Lakeside Memorial Park. We reinstalled an old bronze plaque from 1977, which has a listing of 24 names of veterans, and you'll see that plaque on a 3-minute video, which we'll be showing a little bit later on. We established a veterans paver program in which anyone can honor U.S. veterans by purchasing a paver, which is then engraved. On Memorial Day and Veterans Day, we dedicate new pavers. This will continue, and all of the 380-plus pavers that we have so far will be installed within our proposed new memorial in basically about the same location in the park. But put it in a circular raised area with a nice centerpiece and other things, which you'll see in a few minutes or a minute from now. We have a 3-ring binder there that's lists information about each veteran on the pavers. So I've got the 380 some. They're here. And it goes veteran's name, rank, service branch, and the job that they did, the service period, the veteran, and then unit or area that they served, whether it's a large paver, which is $300 for a 8 by 16, or if it's a small one, which is a 4 inches by 8 inches, and what location it is, center, south, or north, and whether they're alive or not. And so it's for both those that are alive and have deceased. And so as it goes along during the way, I'm actually the chaplain of the American Legion post there, and so I keep track of who has passed away over the last year. So we're going to run a video now. It's a little less than 3 minutes.
Years, this community has shown our veterans through the sale of memorial.
If the sound isn't on.
Shoot.
Still not
For
on.
over 15 years,
Okay.
this community has shown its commitment to honor our veterans.
Just turn the volume up because I can hear a little bit. That's me placing pavers, twice a year. It's kind of hard after Veterans Day, so sometimes we wait until spring.
For over 15 years, this community has shown its commitment to honor our veterans through the sale of memorial pavers, each one a testament to the service and sacrifice of those who came before us.
That's that plaque. With
Thanks to your
24
continued support,
previous veterans.
these efforts have paved the way for something even greater. Now, we stand at the threshold of something truly special, a tribute like no other. Here, in this dedicated space, we envision a memorial that speaks to the courage and strength of our heroes. The central sculpture will be a focal point, surrounded by a stunning arrangement of sentinel stones, symbolizing the unwavering presence of those who have served. As you take in the view from the west, the memorial stands proudly, a powerful reminder of those who have given so much. Each detail has been carefully considered, designed to evoke deep emotion and reflection. The central raised podium is inscribed. War ravages the world around it, yet the spirit of service, love, and freedom endures. They emerge from the chaos. Atop this podium rests 2 war-damaged walls that are collapsing inward, yet a core brace with emerging bronzed eagles holds them at bay, denoting the American spirit rising from within. A military family is shown separated by war, emerging from each wall, from subtle to full-dimensioned bronzes displaying strength and patriotism. A male soldier saluting the American flag before him stands at one, while a female soldier holding a child guards his back on the other. The American family rising above the chaos. This is more than just a design. It's a message, a tribute that will endure for generations to come. Together, we will create a space that forever honors those who have given us so much. We are so close. Let's finish this mission together.
So the placement of the pavers, that was real. But what you saw of the centerpiece and whatever, that's a rendition of what we want to have. So that's the future part, which we need some more money for. Last week, we chose the local artists who were going to craft our centerpiece. It was exciting to see their process and see the bronze model that they came up with, a smaller one that they did to show us what it could look like. We have over $572,000 so far. And if the legacy funds that we're requesting now that we're testifying for today, if they come through, we will complete a great and honoring Veterans Memorial. We are completing the plans and specifications for bids to be ready for underground work the end of this summer, such as diverting underground work. We have to divert a water line that's right in the wrong place, and a valve that's right in the wrong place. It's about a 6-inch water line, so they're going to go put a new one in outside of where we are. So anyway, they'll do that and place footings hopefully this fall. And then in the spring, so a year and a few months from now, is when we put in the above-ground pieces. And we'll take the pavers out, the ones that are in the ground level now, we'll take those out and we'll put those in the raised area. And then we continue that program with the pavers and all. So questions that you have, or questions, and Mark, and he's the designer guy on our committee and whatever, and he can answer the hard questions. I'll answer the easy ones.
Perfect. Does he have a testimony as well? If so, just state your name for the record and go ahead. Then we'll go to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Mark Finneman is my name. The graphics that you just saw, we've been carrying around for a number of months now. They're representing as best we know how the concept and the idea of what we're trying to accomplish. Recently, like Ron said, we have aligned with some nationally known sculptors, artists, and a foundry. And we have come to learn a whole lot more about how you do this really, really well, and how you make it permanent in bronze, and how the artistic expression can improve upon what we've already done. And so our hope is that we can impress you enough with older ideas that are up there yet, but knowing full well that it's not a static world, and what we're doing right now is evolving over time. And we hope that we're going to do something really strong and impressive as a downtown central fine arts piece.
Thank you. With that, are there any member questions? Do you have one, Senator Lang? You gave me a look like maybe you had a question. No? I know what they're doing. I think it's I agree with you, Senator Lang. I think it's a very good project, so I guess that's easy. With that, Senator Housley, if you have some Senator Herr. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair Corn, and thank you very much, Senator Housley, for bringing this forward. You and I are a partnership in this legacy, on remembering the memorial. So I just want to put on the record too that if there's a space left on your bill, if you could please add me on, so that our partnership are not just by word or committee alone, but it's on record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It does look like there is one spot left on the bill.
Yes, there is, and I would say I'd leave you two to fight over it, but Senator Herr, absolutely, we would love to have you on the bill, and I want to thank you again for what you've done previously. This project is shovel-ready. If they could get this last little piece to just get over the hump, and it'll be ready to look like that in a year from now. So thank you. I'll get you on that bill, and thank you again to all of the committee members and Mr. Chairs for hearing this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Housley. With that, Senate File 1869 will be laid over for possible inclusion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Senator McEwen, but I see she's not here, so we will defer to Senator Johnson Stewart for Senate File 1537.
Welcome. Looks like we need one more chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And forgive me, I'm double booked in two committees today, so I appreciate whoever texted me to get over here.
Welcome. So go ahead and just start your testimony, and then for your testifiers, just make sure you guys state your name before the record, before you testify, and then make sure to sign the sign-in sheet as well. To your bill, Senator Johnson Stewart.
All right, excellent. Well, I'm thrilled to present this bill because I am a big fan of Minnesota Public Radio. This bill is seeking to grant $4.7 million over the next 2 years to create original on-air and digital programming, live events, opportunities for presentation of programs that enrich grade schools and the entire community, things that highlight local artists. I'm going to let my testifiers talk about it, but I want to remind everybody here that NPR services our entire state. They actually serve our entire nation, and I'm just really, really thrilled to be helping them today with this legacy request. So I'm not sure who wants to go first, but Mr. Deshawn, are you Deshawn?
Yep.
All right, then I will let them introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. I'm Dushawn Drew.
Is that, wait, I think we have to ask if that's okay.
That's completely okay. I have Mr. Drew up first, but whichever one of you wants to go first, go in whatever order you want. Just make sure to state your name for the record.
You got it. So thank you again for your time. I'm Dushawn Drew. I'm the president of Minnesota Public Radio, which is just up the street. And our presentation is coming along. I'm going to, in the interest of time, just get started with some overview even before the slide is up, because some of this I suspect you will know already. But, you know, NPR is a statewide organization. We have 3 regional news services, NPR News, your classical NPR, and The Current. In addition to what you hear on the radio, we have a whole suite of digital offerings, so everything you hear on the radio is streamed, so available even in parts of the state and frankly in parts of the world where there isn't necessarily a tower available. That said, we do have 45 towers, and with the repeaters, more than 80 sort of physical pieces of equipment that get our signal out to 95% of the state, so that we can reach virtually every Minnesotan, plus a good number of our neighbors to the north, south, east, and west. And at the heart of the work we do, which reaches about 1 million Minnesotans every week, we're trying to build community. We're trying to build just a healthier, I like to think about a healthier, more connected Minnesota. I've been a member myself now for almost 31 years, and take great pride in the fact that Minnesota has produced Minnesota Public Radio, and that in the decades that it's been around, since 1967, NPR has become something that really has come to shape Minnesota. It's a really healthy relationship in that regard. The slide there shows you we're all over the state with our programming. We have a ton of content that's available free of charge, not just on the air, as I said, but so much of it's available online, on demand, in addition to real-time streaming. So just the access, which is really at the heart of what we do, I think is critical. We are the second largest news organization in the region, and we're the only one that's also free. At the heart of our work is preserving Minnesota's cultural history, experiencing arts and entertainment programming that's all over the state. We showcase Minnesota artists, and we're expanding music education in Minnesota in a really, really big way. You'll hear more about that shortly from my friend to my right. Your Classical Minnesota, as an example, partners with not just the Minnesota Orchestra, but with the Winona Beethoven Festival as well. We have a 24/7 choral stream available on classical, and we're doing just a ton of work, both with professional musicians as well as with just your neighbors who enjoy singing themselves, with events like Bring the Sing, which you do across Minnesota. As you can see on the next slide, our Class Notes program is one of the gems of our arts programming, and is funded largely through the funds from Legacy Amendment from the state. And it provides in-school concerts all across Minnesota. Last year, more than 53,000 school children in 168 schools benefited from that programming during last school year. 20% of those performances were in greater Minnesota, and about half of the kids, 48.59, you see there are students who come from low-income families and would qualify for free and reduced price lunch if it weren't freely available to everyone in town or in the state at this point. We've got on this next slide, as you can see, just a good overview of the number of communities we're serving. And we had an event just last week at our headquarters for music teachers from across the state to come and hear some live music and commune with one another. And just, we wanted to celebrate them and the work that they do in enriching young people's lives. As you can see on the next slide, we've got really positive feedback coming from both students who are, designed to benefit from this work, as well as from their music teachers who really appreciate having us as a resource, both in the classroom but also online. A ton of online tools available, as well as musicians who really appreciate the opportunity to perform and connect with students across the state. To my right, David Davis, who's a music teacher, will give you a little overview of how his work is enriched by the Class Notes program.
Hello.
Welcome. Just state your name for the record and go ahead.
Thank you. My name is David Davis. and I'm the music teacher to more than 540 Minnesotan students at Park Spanish Immersion Elementary School in St. Louis Park. I'm also the first Minnesotan music educator to be recognized as a semifinalist for the Grammy Music Educator Award for my innovative, student-centered, and inclusive approach to teaching music. And I'm honored to speak today about NPR's Class Notes program, a program that brings incredible teaching artists to classrooms around the state. In my 15-year career across 3 different states, I have never seen a nonprofit music program as dynamic, high quality, and accessible as Class Notes. Going well beyond just performances and concerts, Class Notes provides interactive learning experiences that I believe really catalyze students' creativity. The students don't just sit quietly and appreciate, they engage. They perform alongside Afro-Caribbean musicians from IET. They improvise with professional songwriters. They dance along to Appalachian folk music. They chat with a trumpet player from the Minnesota Orchestra. They engage in musical storytelling from the Democratic Republic of Congo. To be exposed to this breadth of music alone is incredible, but again, going beyond just performances alone, what I believe sets Class Notes apart is the interactivity. The message is clear that everyone is a musician, creativity is for all, and learning is fun. I hear the students' excitement after each visit, like when my second graders, Emmett and Alani, said, "I made my own rap," or when third grader Mateo, after a visit, said, "I'm gonna ask my mom for a banjo now." Beyond these incredible experiences, Class Notes also provides teachers with lesson plans and resources that help integrate these musical traditions and skills into the classroom. So I cannot overstate how much this program really helps my students gain such a rich and well-rounded perspective. I also want to emphasize that the importance of Class Notes for all schools, it's not just for those schools lacking funding for music education. Even in the most resourced schools, students receive an incomplete and narrow education without access to a broad spectrum of musical traditions and understandings. So NPR Class Notes reaches more than 53,000 students in 168 schools, and its impact continues to grow. Programs like this aren't just extras, they embody exactly what the Legacy Fund was meant to support, an investment in creativity, curiosity, and intercultural development in our state. So that's why, as a music teacher, I strongly support increasing funding for programs like Class Notes in FY 26-27 to ensure that even more students and schools statewide benefit from these amazing experiences. By continuing to support these programs through the Legacy Fund, you empower teachers, motivate students, and help shape a more inclusive and inspiring future for Minnesota's music education program. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have a testimony as well? No. Okay. With that, is there anyone else that wishes to testify on the bill?
I've got some more to present.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I wanted to give him a chance.
I didn't realize you were done, so please
first.
continue.
Yeah, I just want to give you a sense of what we would do with additional funding, and we were leading with classical, but I wanted to make sure we had a chance to talk a little about the work we do through NPR News and the Current. One of the complexities of NPR is we do so many things. So 3 regional services, not just classical. So with the additional funding, it would give us a chance to partner with more regional organizations. So we've got a big push to do even more in greater Minnesota. As I mentioned, a fair amount of work's being done beyond the Twin Cities now. We'd like to do even more. We're looking at just compensation for the artists we work with to make sure that it's competitive and it's fair for the work that they're doing. And as you probably are not surprised to hear, there's a waiting list, schools that would love to have artists come and perform for their children. So if we had additional funding, we'd be in front of more school children. The Current, and I won't read every single line here, obviously, but the Current is our sort of indie music station and really does a great job of highlighting Minnesota music. So I think, this is a really rich music scene. A big part of why Minnesota is such a great music scene, frankly, is because of the Current. It's a symbiotic relationship. A lot of the artists who start here or come here because it's a healthy market become international superstars because of the exposure they get. And we benefit from having such a rich place when it comes to artistic expression through music. And we cover a wide range of things from, Minnesota Music Month is next month, so programming across the state throughout the month, as well as free performances at places like the State Fair and Grand Old Day here in St. Paul. Just making music accessible, freely accessible to folks is, once again, one of our chief goals. The Current also, like the other parts of NPR, does a ton digitally, which is, if we're talking about growing audiences and we're talking about being relevant to younger people and talking about reaching folks who maybe, as I said earlier, don't necessarily have a signal within a few miles, we're doing a ton online and doing a ton through social media and YouTube and just making it possible for the artists here in this state and for the people who live in the state to be able to connect more meaningfully, doing a lot of work to develop this ecosystem. And there's some, I won't read them, but as you can see, there are a number of artists and listeners who just really appreciate the role that the Current plays in just greater exposure. This is not something you just find in any state or any market, frankly. The truth of the matter is that the Current is regarded as the top AAA station in the country. And so much of the funding we get from Legacy enriches what we're able to offer, but also benefits from the other investments that we're able to get from other sources to be able to have this kind of broad impact on the region and across music more broadly. On the NPR News side, we spend a fair amount of time doing sort of arts and cultural programming. It's not hard news reporting that we use Legacy dollars for. So, a couple stories a week on average. Particular moments focused within our Morning Edition program, NPR News, the Angela Davis, and our All Things Considered program in the afternoon, which are three of the highest rated programs that we offer. NPR News is the second rated radio station in the Twin Cities, not second rated public media, second rated station in the market. And so I bring it up just as a point of impact. We're reaching an awful lot of people, and our goal is always to reach more people because we feel so strongly about the value of what we have to offer. As you can see there, we had 129 different community-nominated events that flowed through our Art Sound programming, and about 39% came from Greater Minnesota. So we really make a point of trying to make sure we're shining a light on the creativity and the talent that exists throughout Minnesota. And we reached, in terms of our storytelling, 10 of the 11 regional arts districts in the last year. Our North Shore Journey projects through NPR News are regularly featured on both our morning program, Morning Edition, as well as our afternoon program, All Things Considered. And we've done a number of hour-long specials through this, just featuring important leaders across the state from a wide range of communities and wide geographies across the state to really highlight some of the people who are defining what life here is. And very intentional, as I said, in really trying to cross both cultural and geographic boundaries through the course of the year. We've put a lot of effort into connecting with younger people. We really want to make sure they feel seen and served and that they are included in the programming that we do. So Carbon Sound, Project DJ, and our radio camp, all of which is entailed in materials you have in greater detail, are really squarely aimed at trying to bring younger people along and serve their needs and interests. So we're pivoting, which is something you've got to do if you're in media today, is figure out what younger people care about and meet those needs. So we're learning and actually, I think, setting some good examples for the rest of our ecosystem. I won't read them, but once again, some feedback there from folks who have participated in it and who've benefited from the content we're producing. So with expanded funding, we'd love to get into more communities. We've got a big push to spend more time, energy in greater Minnesota and rural communities in particular. We've got a real commitment to trying to stitch the state together in healthier ways, and it means showing up. We've got a ton of, when you see multi-platform storytelling, that's basically, you can hear us on the air, you can stream us, you can pull us up online, you can listen to a podcast on demand, you can go to YouTube, you can go to social media. We're on so many channels trying to, once again, reach audiences where they are and do it in a way that's going to resonate with them, and really trying to make the most of the content we're developing. We've got art hounds already throughout the state, and we're working hard, as I said, to be in even more pockets of it. And our Native News initiative includes a Native News art focus, as well as the North Star Journey piece. So really trying to be a great reflection of the beauty that is Minnesota. We have a pretty extensive archival program as well that dates back 57 years. And we use it, and other news outlets use it. It's also available to the public, just to, if they're curious about things, there's a good chance we have something in our archives about it. Gives them access to, original reporting, interviews, just a whole host of things that capture, once again, sort of the richness of life here in Minnesota. As far as our events go, Rock the Cradle, which we do in partnership with MIA and the Children's Theater Company. It's coming up in June. That attracts more than 5,000 people, mostly, moms, dads, grandparents, and their young people in their lives. And it's just a fun, once again, free event for folks that just is really a beautiful mashup of different kinds of performances and activities that for many of those families is going to be one of the best days of the year. Once again, a number of the musical concerts that we are able to put on are done with legacy dollars and done for free or freely available. Nothing's really for free, right? But freely available to folks, and really appreciate the support that makes that possible. You've heard about Class Notes already, and we've begun now having some of those artists with different funds, not state funds, but go and perform in the communities where they're performing in schools during the day, just trying to maximize their time. And you can see there, I'm not going to read them all there to you, but some really good stats about the impact that we're having across Minnesota with all three of our regional services. Really appreciative of the work we're able to do with your support, and excited about doing more and meaning more to Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify for or against the bill? Seeing none, member questions. Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was looking at your folder here, and on page 28 of it, there's some figures in there. Is the 1 point, or basically $2 million, is that what you were awarded last time? Or was there more?
Mr. Drew?
I couldn't hear the question.
We couldn't hear.
I'm on the right page, and why I couldn't hear the question.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Green.
On page 28, it says Minnesota Public Radio fiscal year 2024.
Yep.
And so I'm just asking what this is. Is that obviously only partially what you got last year? What is this for?
That was 1 year's worth of funding.
Senator Green.
Okay, thank you. So to the testifier, you said last year you got 4.1?
Mr. Drew.
That was for the biennial.
Yes. So
we're unable to hear her. So
yeah,
Mr. Drew, if you could
I'll
repeat.
answer it. So what she was saying, and I'll just repeat it, is that the FY24 number was 1.9 million. It was 4.1 over the 2 years.
Senator Green.
Thank you. One of the things that I've been seeing, and this question isn't, it's for you, but it's a broader question. On the money that was appropriated in 2024, then 3/4 of it was for salary and benefits. Do you have a breakdown of what that is? Because what I've been seeing, and I suspect is happening throughout the state now, is that different organizations are coming in and they're using our dedicated funds to backfill or actually subsidize what they already do. And so, you're...
Yeah, we can provide that. I think we do already, but I'm happy to make sure we pull it out again. And we're not swapping funds. Maybe I wasn't as clear about it. When we were going through that list of things, we're doing a lot with that money. So the Class Notes programs require staffing to make arrangements to be in 168 schools, putting on performances, whether it's on Grand Avenue for Grand Old Day or at the State Fair, requires staffing. So some of the money goes to our staff to organize it. None of it goes to me or anyone else up here. Some of it goes, much of it, frankly, with the musical program, much of that is passed through to the artists who are actually performing. So I'm happy to provide that. We're not shifting costs from one column to another to get through a year. We're doing a lot of great things with the money you guys provide us, and it is designed to, whether it's in the news or one of the musical programs, to enrich the lives of people here. We raise other money to pay my salary. We raise other money. Frankly, I touched on it earlier, the money we get from you allows us to do things that we wouldn't be able to do, but the money we get from you also, floats on top of the other money we're raising. We reach, almost 1 million people a week. Much of the programming I described is reaching that many people because of the other dollars we're raising, the other work that we're doing.
Senator Green.
Mr. Chair, I just got one more question, and then maybe I do apologize because you had a person come in to talk to me, and I had to go to a doctor's appointment, so I didn't get to talk to her.
No, this is why we're here.
So I will be asking for more information, but if you have the numbers for all the funding that you get from the state, what percentage of that is legacy?
Mr. Drew?
I think the legacy dollars account for 3% of our total budget, so that's meaningful money to us. We do great things with it, but it's not what drives the train.
Senator Green.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional, Senator McEwen?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just piggybacking on that last conversation, I wonder if you can just clarify for us so that the legacy dollars, you said compromise about 3% of your total budget.
Right.
Can you tell us just real quickly, and I apologize if I missed this part of your presentation because I came in a little bit late, but what percentage of your budget is state dollars at all?
Mr. Drew?
It's in that zone. There's not a lot of other dollars we get. We get some money, I think, for like equipment, like fixing or a tower in greater Minnesota or something, but there's not a lot of the state money coming in.
Senator McEwen?
Thank you. And so can you tell us where does the Minnesota Public Radio funding come from? Just like a elevator quick breakdown.
Happy to answer that. Yeah, so 74% of our funding comes from members. So I mentioned I've been a member for 31 years in May. That's the bulk of it. 3/4 comes from mostly Minnesotans, frankly, who value what we do. And then we get additional dollars from foundations. We get dollars in other institutions. We get money from underwriting, which is we don't call it sales in our line of work, right? Underwriting messaging that you hear if you listen to us, different organizations that support us that way. And sometimes sponsorships as well of the events that we put on.
Senator McEwen?
Thank you. Thanks for that. And, if I had my way, I would make you all public radio, truly public radio, because I really believe in our public goods and that we need those. So thank you for kind of telling us about the structure and how you receive your funding. And I know as a longtime listener of NPR and growing up here in Minnesota and up in Duluth, where we have a really strong station and a strong membership up there, it's really appreciated all of the work you do in general, all of your programming. But I would say I just want to commend you for all of the work you do with these legacy funds. It is some of my favorite parts of your programming on air, and also I know anecdotally, my family up in Duluth has enjoyed many things. My children participated in the Bring the Sing. Like, we've been to concerts that you've helped facilitate. There's just so much rich activity, especially in the music area, but also with youth, with different cultural experiences that you're bringing on air. I love the report, I saw the name of it, Art Hounds, where you have the local people interviewed and telling sort of what they're excited about that's happening in the community. It's so great. And sometimes every now and then I listen to Art Hounds and I will hear somebody I know in Duluth who happens to be talking about something that's happening that I'm also excited about. And then I get to hear about things that might be happening in Rochester or, anywhere across the state. And it's just, even if I'm not able to attend to those things myself, to know that they're happening in our state and the different artistic endeavors people are involved in. And then also to hear from the local person why they're excited about it and what they love about it and why they hope other people will come see it. It's wonderful, wonderful work that you're doing. And you're stretching these dollars so far and bringing such good programming with these dollars. I just really commend you for it. And I hope that we're able to support you going forward as well. So thanks very much for all this work.
Our goal is to sound like Minnesota.
Any additional questions from members? Seeing none, Senator Johnson Stewart, final comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out, I met with NPR earlier to go through their report. We call these performance measures. They call them measurable outcomes, but I was really impressed with their ability to just very specifically and responsibly show me where they had spent their money from last year, how they're able to measure if it's a good program, what are the outcomes. So that would be on page 29, 30, and to the end. But again, as a sustaining member of NPR, I'm happy to be up here. I would have worn my I Listen sweatshirt, but I was told I couldn't. So I really do encourage your support, and I appreciate the work you do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's it.
Thank you. With that, Senate File 1537 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Next up, we have Senate File 1901, Senator McEwen. Welcome, Senator McEwen, and a Children's Museum appropriation that has nothing to do with shoes, so we're happy to hear about that today. Welcome. Just go ahead and get started whenever you're ready. And for your testifier, once she's done, if you want to get started, just make sure to state your name for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members. Thank you for the opportunity to present Senate File 1901. This bill proposes investments in children's museums across the state. The special places that are specifically created for our youngest Minnesotans to explore, have fun, and learn. The Coalition of Greater Minnesota Children's Museums came together after realizing it is far more effective to work together than to compete against each other. The coalition is made up of children's museums in my district of Duluth, as well as Breckenridge, Grand Rapids, St. Cloud, Bloomington, Wilmer, Benson, Fergus Falls, Hutchinson, Brainerd-Baxter, Mankato, and Rochester. Children's museums are critical places for children to experience play-based learning. They provide children across our state with learning and development opportunities, strengthen bonds between families and our shared communities, and increase cross-cultural competency. Our children's museums use legacy funds to support new exhibits and programming. This bill proposes an approach for funding developed by the museums themselves, and the dollar amounts requested reflect the museum's sizes and annual operating budgets. Thank you again for your time and consideration. I would now like to turn it over to my testifier, Drew Jensen, who is the Executive Director of the Duluth Children's Museum, to share more about our request. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Senators, my name is Drew Jensen, and I'm the Executive Director for the Duluth Children's Museum. I want to take a moment to thank Senator McEwen for serving as chief author on the Children's Museum Appropriation Bill, and thank our co-authors, Senators Lang, Hochschild, Rasmussen, and Frentz, for supporting our proposed legislation. We greatly appreciate the financial support from past sessions, which has allowed our museums to continue to invest in new, innovative exhibits and programs related to the interests and intellectual capacities of young children. I'm privileged to be here today on behalf of the Greater Minnesota Children's Museum Coalition, a collaboration of 12 children's museums across the state. Our coalition serves domestic and international visitors, including visitors from all 87 counties of the state of Minnesota. Collectively, we serve over 400,000 individuals annually. Our children's museums are hard at work wrapping up projects related to our 24-25 biennium funding. At the Duluth Children's Museum, where I work, we've been able to invest our legacy funding in new exhibits and experiences related to pulleys, gears, light and color, among other STEM projects. For the works in Bloomington, legacy funding is supporting the co-design and development for their new exhibit, Interwoven. Created in collaboration with children and adults from diverse backgrounds, Interwoven explores how culture is interwoven into engineering and design. As we look to the next biennium, our coalition is advocating for direct legacy appropriations in a tiered fashion, based on our annual visitorship to our respective museums. Direct appropriations ensure timely allocation of funds for our museum projects. Challenges in regards to timing with the current grant-based model has led to many of our coalition members needing to fast-track projects by spending 2 years' worth of funding in a 13-month window in this last biennium. You'll notice in our bill language includes an increase in appropriations for the 26-27 biennium. Our coalition has grown. We recently added an emerging children's museum in Benson, Minnesota, called the Minnesota Agriculture Children's Museum. The increase also reflects the substantial increase in costs of goods and services related to exhibit fabrication and program development. Thank you for your time and for your ongoing support in making Minnesota the best place to raise and educate children in the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Is there anybody else that wishes to testify for or against the bill? Seeing none, member questions? Well, that was easy. I will say I do appreciate the inclusion of the Grand Rapids Children's Museum. My kids benefited from that when they were young. My sister's kids benefited from that. They're still benefiting from that. And a lot of people hear children's museums, and it's not like what you think of a museum, and it's not just a place to play either. It's amazing the amount of learning that happens. And it teaches, I think, kind of a lifelong learning, because the learning doesn't stop when the last school bell rings. It continues on and is a lifelong endeavor. So I think children's museums play definitely an important role in our state. So happy to see this bill, happy to support it as well. Seeing no other questions, we will defer back to you, Senator McEwen, for closing comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I agree wholeheartedly. And when my children are grown now, or young adults now, but when they were little and of elementary school age, my husband and I had a practice of visiting any children's museum when we might be traveling, checking out all these children's museums. And our kids had so much fun in these various children's museums. And I have, when we first went to a children's museum, it was sort of a new concept for us. And I agree with you. It was sort of interesting to see this whole concept of an idea of a museum that is really around play, around encouraging kids to explore and learn, but to do that through really fun things, and then it helps translate into their how they approach life as they get older. So really appreciative of all of the work that these children's museums do, and I think it's just a wonderful development that we've seen in our society over the years, and I'm glad that we have good efforts to support it. So thank you.
With that, thank you. With that, Senate File 1901 will be laid over for possible inclusion.
Thank you.
The final item on our agenda is the Parks and Trails Legacy Partner Agency update. And we do have a item in our packet as well for that. And I know most of you have been before the committee before, so I know you know the drill, but just make sure to state your name before the record, and you don't have to go back and forth. You guys can just make your way through, whoever wants to go in whatever order you want, but just state your name for the record before each one of you starts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Lisa Barajas. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Development Division at the Metropolitan Council, and I'm here today with my two colleagues who I'll pass the mic to allow them to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. My name is Laura Preuss with the Department of Natural Resources, Parks and Trails Division. Pleasure to be here today.
Good afternoon. Renee Mattson. I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. We are all committed to advancing the shared vision of the 25-year Parks and Trails Legacy Plan, which is to connect everyone to a world-class system of regional and statewide parks and trails in Minnesota, and together we make up the state and regional park system of Minnesota. Before we dive into agency-specific elements, we just wanted to ground a little bit in some background and history on the clean water, land, and legacy, but in particular on parks and trails. As you can see on the slide in front of you, parks and trails is about 14% of the overall legacy amendment that is focused on the work that we will talk about today. Over 18 months, our partnership conducted an extensive public engagement effort to learn what the citizens of Minnesota's hopes are for this exciting source of support. We developed the following vision and a 25-year long-range plan for Minnesota's parks and trails of state and regional significance. The vision for the 25-year Parks and Trails Legacy Plan is to provide a seamless, accessible, and welcoming system of parks and trails for all Minnesotans. It recognizes that parks and trails provide a variety of physical and mental health benefits for Minnesotans, and there is a concerted effort to reach beyond traditional groups and individuals to ensure a larger and more diverse audience is served by these state and regional parks and trails. Today, all three partners continue to engage with the public around the Parks and Trails Legacy Fund, and this includes the 17-member Parks and Trails Legacy Advisory Committee, as it continues to provide guidance and champion progress toward the 25-year Parks and Trails Legacy Plan. Joint projects among the DNR, Met Council, and Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission include our work together to coordinate toward that seamless system, the development of a user-friendly website, coordinated research projects, and new pilot program around Minnesota's Parks Artist in Residence program, an effort to work with artists to help make our parks, more welcoming to visitors from across the state. Importantly about this slide are the 4 pillars that are the key components of the Parks and Trails Legacy Plan. And it's around which all of our work supported by the legacy dollars is oriented. The legacy funds have been a game changer for the DNR, for the Met Council, and for Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails. These funds allow partners to accelerate work in these critical areas and fill important gaps. These 4 pillars that I referenced and are shown on the slide here include these strategic priorities around connecting people in the outdoors, acquiring land and creating opportunities, taking care of what we have, and coordinating among partners. And you'll hear some examples of projects and how we have been orienting our work with the legacy funds to do exactly these items that are on the slide. So next I'll turn to the Metropolitan Regional Park System before I turn it over to my colleagues. So once again, it's my pleasure to present on behalf of our 10 regional parks implementing agencies and provide an overview of the Metropolitan Regional Parks and Trail Systems efforts. The Legacy Fund, again, has been a critical source of funding for the Metro region to make sure we're able to meet the growing and changing needs of all of our Metro area residents. The slide before you shows a map of our Metropolitan Regional Parks and Trail System and the 10 regional parks implementing agencies. The Metropolitan Council works closely with these 10 agencies to help support the system. We conduct long-range planning efforts, identify what's in the system, and do a whole lot of research around visitation, what members or what visitors are looking for, what they're not looking for, and types of items that they're looking for, in addition to applying and the tenants and system pillars that are identified in the 25-year Parks and Trails Legacy Plan. The Metro system, as established by the Metropolitan Parks Act of 1974, functions as the state parks and trails of the metropolitan area. So while you may be familiar with some in the region, state parks or state trails in the region, really it's a coordinated effort where the metropolitan implementing agencies are really focused on providing those same sorts of state-like efforts and experiences right in the backyards of metro area residents. Our Metropolitan Regional Parks and Trail System is nationally renowned, and it's made up of 46 regional parks, 12 park reserves, 8 special recreation features like the Como Zoo, and 56 regional trails with almost 500 miles of riding opportunities. In total, the Metropolitan Regional Parks and Trail System protects over 65,000 acres of parkland, all of which is open to everyone. The last time we measured visitation at our regional system was in 2023, and we're getting ready for our next update this year. But in 2023, we found that we had more than 69 million visits. This is far more people than visit the Mall of America every year, which is estimated at about 40 million people. The Parks and Trails Legacy Fund helps make the Metropolitan Regional Parks and Trail System a true gateway to all of Minnesota's amazing outdoor opportunities, including the state park system and the Greater Minnesota Regional System. And as we'll hear about on a future slide, there's a lot of interconnections so we, with our trails and our trail networks to help Minnesotans have that seamless experience. For the Metropolitan Regional Park System, legacy funds are distributed by a statutorily derived formula, which is referenced on the slide here. So 90% of the funds are distributed by this formula directly to the 10 regional park implementing agencies. This formula takes into account the relative sizes of each implementing agency's parks, the number of local people they serve, and the number of non-local people their parks and trails attract, and how much it costs to run each agency's portion of the system. So a number of complex inputs that go into that formula. The remaining 10% provides funding for land acquisition. For each acquisition, park agencies contribute at least 25% of the acquisition cost, the council contributes 30% of the cost, and legacy funds supply 45% of the cost. The council's Park Acquisition Opportunity Fund is in high demand, and actually we have a couple of acquisitions on our council's agenda for approval coming up in the coming months, so we're really looking forward to continue growing this system in the region. The Metropolitan Council coordinates the Metropolitan Regional Park System Legacy Project selection process, but it is the locally elected boards and commissions in each of the 10 regional parks implementing agencies that determines the projects. Council staff review all projects for consistency with the council-approved park and trail long-range plans, as well as ensuring that the proposed projects meet all state guidelines, in addition to fitting into those pillars that I had talked about earlier on the legacy plan. The photo on this slide shows a legacy-funded trail bridge refurbishment project along the Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail in Minneapolis. This bridge was failing due to the increasingly frequent freeze and thaw cycles in our Minnesota winters, and was just really great to be able to have this project completed. The 4 pillars in the Regional Parks and Trails Legacy Plan line up nicely with the recently completed 2050 Regional Parks and Trails Policy Plan, which is part of our 2050 Regional Development Guide. The new 2050 plan prioritizes connecting people in the outdoors, acquiring land and creating opportunities, and taking care of our existing systems, along with coordinating among our partners like the DNR and the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. So to end my portion before I turn it over, I just wanted to share just a few examples of some recent Parks and Trails legacy investments in the metropolitan system. On the left, you'll see that Three Rivers Park District renovated restrooms at the Baker Park Reserve at Lake Independence, an effort to create well-designed and accessible basic amenities. Our recent study has shown that what residents are really looking for, visitors are really looking for, is really ensuring that accessibility to different parts of the park, and especially restrooms, that they're able to use them, that they're able to get in, and that they're actually available. And having those has been a bit of a barrier for different demographics for visitation. There have been several recent legacy-supported land acquisitions at Scott County's Blakely Bluffs Park Reserve along the Minnesota River. The county is creating amazing access to this resource that someday, in the not-too-distant future, will be open to all Minnesotans to experience this magical natural space. And just down the river in Dakota County is the Minnesota River Regional Trail, where the Parks and Trails Legacy Fund is doing big things to create safe, accessible, and scenic trail experiences for bicycle riders and pedestrians. Ultimately, this trail will connect all the way to Henderson, Minnesota, and Greater Minnesota's regional trail system. So thank you again for your time today. I'm happy to turn it to my colleagues. Laura to my right.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members, again, I'm Laura Preuss with the Minnesota DNR Parks and Trails Division. It is great to be here in partnership today. I'd like to briefly introduce you to our system, tell you a little bit about our process, and give some examples to bring it to life. And we'll make that pretty brief. The slide here gives you a sense of an overview of our system. The map on the right illustrates the facilities across our system at a very high level, and you'll see that they're located throughout the entire state of Minnesota. They also cover Minnesota's major ecological systems, and they harbor some of the state's finest natural and cultural resources across the state. On the left side, you'll see it's demonstrating a list out of some of our major facilities as well. We have 73 state parks and recreation areas, as well as many camping opportunities in our state parks, as well as forest campgrounds. In addition, there is a large amount of land that is managed as a part of this system, 240,000 acres of land managed, which is really important for the state's critical habitat, as well as engaging in natural resource management, such as prairie restorations, bison management, and more. State trails are also a major part of the system. You'll see we have 25 state trails across the state of Minnesota. 1,500 miles of those are developed. Minnesota, interestingly, also has 35 state water trails, which is rather unique and something special for Minnesota. The Parks and Trails Legacy Fund is mostly then focused on our parks and trails of state significance. So hopefully this slide gives you a sense of the range and scope of the system. I'd also like to point out that many of these places are extremely important for Minnesota's tourism and contribute significantly to the state's overall $13.5 billion outdoor recreation industry in Minnesota. This is an overview side of our process. DNR and partners, we all use the 25-year Parks and Trails Legacy Plan to guide our work. This is aligned also with DNR's mission and our strategic priorities, and we ensure that we're continuing to advance that 25-year plan over the life of it. Again, those 4 strategic priorities listed on the left that you've heard about from Lisa. So I won't go over them again, but I would like to emphasize under taking care of what we have. This is a really important part for our system in DNR. Much of our system is like 60 to 90 years old, built a long time ago, and it's extremely important that we're able to maintain that system. We heard how important that was when we spoke with all of the citizens across the state developing that 25-year plan. They wanted to take care of what we have while developing strategic new opportunities. And it's also not a static sense of maintaining what we have, but thinking about how we upgrade it for and modernize it for today's current needs across Minnesota. So for our process, we review outcomes and needs. We also listen to what the Parks and Trails Legacy Advisory Committee has to say, as well as consider our stakeholder engagement efforts. And then we ensure that our biennial priorities for legacy align with those plans and also the feedback that we're hearing. I'd like to give some examples now to just bring this to life. Some of you may be familiar with these, but it's always nice to share the latest and keep it up to date. This is demonstrating one example in our I Can programs. Those are extremely popular skill-building programs that really welcome people into the outdoors and help everyone feel comfortable and able to get out there and experience new opportunities. You'll see on the slide it includes things like I can camp, I can mountain bike, I can fish, and I can paddle, along with some others as well. These are really low-cost opportunities where people get equipment, they get guidance, really ensuring confidence building, and we're reaching over 50,000 participants. We also do evaluations that let us know that these programs are meeting broader participants than we normally would within our system and programs. A couple of other to briefly mention, our Library Pass program has been very popular. We piloted that with legacy funds recently and had great success with it, and so we are expanding that program now. This is a system where we have passes, state park entrance passes across the state. People can go in and check them out for 7 days, try it out in a low-cost way to get introduced to the system. So that's another, again, popular program, and we're expanding it, and those libraries are listed on our DNR website. Another area on the right side is our Junior Ranger program. We do many naturalist programs throughout our system, reaching nearly 250,000 participants. This is just one example. We heard from parents that they're wanting to help get their kids connected to the outdoors, but sometimes trying to understand what should we do, how should we approach it. So this new program gives a variety of activities for kids, helps parents and kids get out there and get connected. I'd like to quickly walk through some examples now related to the other strategic priorities, this one around acquiring land and creating new opportunities. This is an example at Itasca State Park where we have the headwaters of the Mississippi. As you'll note, the picture on the left side, we heard a lot of feedback from our visitors that they didn't feel safe or comfortable on this wilderness drive as a way to make it to the headwaters if they were on bikes. And so one of the things that Legacy Funds afforded us the opportunity to do was to upgrade a natural surface trail into a paved trail that would be an accessible access to the headwaters of the Mississippi, where people would feel safer and have a way to get to that really gem of Minnesota. So we hear a lot of great feedback about how we've used legacy funds for those types of opportunities. As another example related to new opportunities, at Split Rock Lighthouse State Park, the Shipwreck Creek Campground, a bit of a tongue twister there. We had a small opportunity there with carton sites, limited opportunities, and this new upgrade to the campground allows to greatly expand it with 46 electric sites, shower buildings, new opportunities, and a lot of accessibility. It's been very popular, and I'd like to point out, it's really nice because it connects up to a regional mountain biking system. And so again, it fits at this idea of the seamless system. People don't really care who's managing it. They just want to get outdoors and stay connected. So it's been a real nice partnership across the system. As a last example here, I mentioned much of our system is 60 to 90 years old, a lot of that conservation core. This is a nice example at Sibley State Park. Our Lakeview campground really provides family-friendly facilities year-round, but many of those facilities so old, we had to address the shower building there. You'll see on the far left in that middle picture. And that allowed us to upgrade that and make it usable and safe for people with the new shower building. At the same time, we're seeing that our visitorship is expanding beyond just the regular summer season. We're having a lot of visitorship in the spring and fall. And so there's a lot of cases where our vault toilets are a really important part to provide opportunities for people. So in this case, we also have a vault toilet. When the water's off, when the shower buildings are closed, people are still able to get outdoors, and that's just an important part of aspect. For families getting connected. Legacy is ensuring that we're able to accelerate some of this important work to take care of our system. So hopefully these few examples give you a sense of what we're doing with Legacy in our system. Also, you'll see that you have received a report, Outdoors for Everyone, that is really a partnership effort across all of that. Some of those highlights are included in that report, and we have additional copies if needed. Thank you, and I'd like to pass it to my colleague, Renee Mattson.
Thanks, Laura. Renee Mattson, again, Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission Executive Director. I'm out of Duluth. I'm keenly aware also of the fact that I'm the last of the last today, so I think in the option of keeping some time for questions, I'm going to skip through some of this. Beautiful shot there of one of our camp facilities. It's Campground and Horse Camp in Big Falls, Minnesota, which has a population of 237. And I always point this out as a wonderful example of what small communities can do with grant funds. Over the last couple of grant cycles, they have been successful in gaining almost $2 million in grants from Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. And that's due in part to great enthusiasm for their city clerk, and also changes that the commission has made over time to ensure that every community and every county and every tribal government, no matter what the size is, has an equal opportunity to apply for and be successful in getting grant funding. So they've done a marvelous, a lot of good work there at that facility. So here you see there, we have 6 districts across 80 counties. You can see there where our facilities are. We have 13 volunteer commissioners, 2 in each district, 1 at large. With me today is our chair, Rick Anderson. Rick is from Ballatin, Minnesota. If you've not been there, it's in southwest Minnesota. It's a beautiful little community. And Rick has been our chair for a number of years and is very supportive, of course, of our efforts here. I'm going to flip through these real quickly because there's a few things I want to talk to. So this is our designation process. We can go to the next one. We have 4 different types of facilities we designate through our 80 current facilities: natural resource-based parks, our trail system, that can be for motorized as well as non-motorized users. Next. We have special feature parks. You can see some examples here. And finally, we have a new category, which is our supportive partnership, and we do have one of those partnership opportunities as well in our system. But what I want to point out to you, you have this guide in front of you. Again, it's got this beautiful picture of Big Falls. So in this publication, what I would point out to you is on page 10,
we talk about some initiatives that we've done over time. When the commission was started back in 2013, our main focus was to designate as regionally significant facilities that met those qualifications in Greater Minnesota, and then those facilities have access to funding stream through Legacy, which is extremely important. And that was our focus for the first many years. What I'm pointing to in our publication today is how we've expanded and grown over time as a commission and broadened our reach from designating facilities and funding those facilities to really looking at what we can do to further the efforts in Greater Minnesota of our facilities there and make things, those facilities and those trails and those special feature parks more accessible, more welcoming to people. Because if we're building these great facilities, that's wonderful. If no one's using them, that's not so wonderful. So we've done some real hard thinking about ways we can open those up and make them more inviting and accessible for people of all mobility, vision, hearing, different socioeconomic outcomes. We really want to ensure that everyone has access to those facilities. So what you see on page 10 is a track wheelchair grant that we were very thoughtful about a number of years ago, found a supplier in Minnesota out of Marshall, Minnesota, Action Manufacturing, who gave us a great deal on track wheelchairs, and we made those available to all of our partners. We had three grants that came in to us that year for this specific grant opportunity. We had the funds to do 2 of those grants. And the commissioners decided that was a really terrible place to be in, to tell 2 of those facilities you're winners and 1 you're losers. So we paid for that 3rd track chair grant out of our operating budget because there was a real determination from our commissioners that this was important, and it was an important opportunity for all 3 facilities. So we did that out of our operating budget. And you can see on the bottom below that is our free equipment use days. We ensure that if we are giving grants for equipment to be used in a facility, that they also make that equipment, if they are charging for them, and some do, some don't. It's not something we dictate, but we do dictate now that if you do get an equipment grant from us, you make that equipment available for a certain number of days at no charge, so that people can try it before they have to invest in it. And those days are not on a Tuesday in the morning in the middle of winter. It's based on the seasonality, and you're required to do weekends as well. So that's another initiative we've done over time. Finally, I'm going to wrap up on page 12. We have done a lot of talking about how to make our facilities more inclusive to all, and we've hired this past year an accessibility expert named Bill Botten, who for 25 years worked for the U.S. Access Board and was right on the ground when ADA was coming into, had just started. And Bill was able to really open up the outdoors, because that's his specialty, to ensure that recreational facilities and trails are in fact as accessible as possible. And he would tell you himself, as someone who's in a chair, that ADA is at best a C grade for the way that we enable people to move around this country. And we tell our applicants in our funding applications, we of course expect you to meet the ADA guidelines, but we want you to exceed them. But if those facilities don't understand what those guidelines are, it's hard for them to even meet them, much less exceed them. So we've hired this expert, and we're making him available to any park or trail, any partner of ours, anyone in the state of Minnesota who's interested in learning more about accessibility and how to achieve greater accessibility in a facility, by offering a series of 4 seminars this year that are open to all. And our first one was in February. We did playgrounds and the maintenance of them, and we had a huge turnout. Great questions, lots of interest, and our next one is actually next month on shared use paths and pedestrian trails. So it's something we take seriously, and because we do, we want to make sure that we make opportunities for learning and education available to all of our facilities and anyone who's interested. So this talks about how we feel about including people in our facilities. And with that, I'm just going to skip to the end and say thanks for your time, because I'm sure there are questions. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Do take this guide with you to learn more, and thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions from members? Nobody? Okay. That's easy.
I
Going
gave
once,
up my
going
last
twice?
5 minutes. You got to be kidding.
All right, yeah, if you got anything else, you got another couple minutes.
Nah, I'm good.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming and for the materials for us to look through. And I'm pretty sure you probably met with most of us. I know you met with me in my office, and it helped to kind of go through that in a little more detail. So that kind of stuff is helpful for us. Thank you. With that, we don't have any other business to come before our committee today. Oh, Senator Herr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since I have the mic, I just want to thank the three wonderful and professional women here and in tag team and presenting to us. But my announcement is that I just want to let members know that we plan to mark up and pass our legacy omnibus by the end of the month, which is March 25th. So if you want your bill to be heard, do submit it to us, and I can consider the order of it mainly for the legacy, not the environment, but legacy omnibus bill. Thank you.
Senator Hearn, maybe for staff, do we know what our total appropriation is going to be now for legacy? There were some questions about it, especially with the announcement in the budget where there was going to have to be some payback to the general fund. And that's maybe a question for staff if you don't have it off the top of your head, but there was just some curiosity there. A few folks asked me, and I wasn't sure of the answer.
I think Mr. Mueller will have that answer for us.
Mr. Chairman and members, yes, the February forecast did contain about a $30 million negative adjustment throughout the legacy funds. The Department of MMB had a fix in the way that they split the money between the general fund and the legacy funds. So each of the funds will have a negative, a downward amount available compared to the November forecast. I can read those off quick, and I'll send something around to both to the committee members. But for the Lessard's Outdoor Heritage Fund, there'll be about a $6 million reduction from the November forecast. The Clean Water Fund, it's about an $8.6 million reduction in fiscal year 26. And then the Parks and Trails Fund, it's about a $3.8 million reduction in fiscal year 26. And then in the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, it's about a $5.7 million reduction. There was a little bit of additional tax revenue that came in compared to the November forecast, so that helped boost it back up a little bit in the second year, but overall, it will be a little less money than was available in the November forecast. But I will send something out to all the members of what that is, and that will be our new. Then there is a requirement that each of the funds retains a 5% fund balance moving forward. So we'll have to factor that into what the targets are for each of the funds.
Perfect. Thank you for sending that out to the committee. Anything else? I don't want to miss anybody else. I think we're good. With that, not seeing any other business to come before the committee, our next meeting will be Thursday, March 13th at 3 p.m. And we'll look forward to seeing you then. With that, we are adjourned.